Welcome to another DVD Blu-Ray collection update video, and today we got some big updates coming, so let's just get started. First up, we have A Clockwork Orange. I am proud to announce that my Stanley Kubrick collection is now complete. This is the one Kubrick film I'm missing outside of his three shorts. I think Kino put it out recently, but I'm not sure. Anyway, so Clockwork Orange, based on Anthony Burgess's already controversial bestseller, released in 1971, it was deemed so controversial that Kubrick withdrew the film from distribution in the UK. But by today's standards, it's almost tame. It tells the story of Alex, who he, along with his three Drews, Pete, Georgie, and Dim, who spend their days go around causing ruckus in a dystopian London. They take part in what is known as ultra-violence, stealing cars, getting into gang fights, breaking into people's homes, and so forth. Well, one day after Alex kills a Catwoman, he gets thrown in prison and then is selected to take part in an experiment that robs a person of her violent impulses. This is a film dealing with the war on violence, the response on violence, and violent impulses. It also asks the question, what is worse? Someone who knowing and willingly acts on their violent impulses out of pleasure, or someone taking part in an experiment that robs a person of her free will. The use of music is clever. Kubrick's films were always clever with the choice of music, and this film is no exception. From the synthesized sound to the use of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony as a plot device, different camera techniques like handheld shots, slow motion, one scene is like sped up, there's all dolly shots, tracking shots, there's all kinds of different. This is a really fantastic film, and this is a digibook, by the way. Brand new, sealed, so that's awesome. Now, I've only seen this movie once, whereas with other Kubrick's films, The Shining, 2001: Space Odyssey, Barry Lyndon, Full Metal Jacket, all that, Paths of Glory, I have seen his movies so many times, and a few of them with other people, so much so that I know that all of Kubrick's films are masterpieces, every single one of them. But A Clockwork Orange, I've only seen once. It's not my favorite Kubrick film or anything, but make no mistake, A Clockwork Orange is great. It's certainly not for everybody. It's not that violent by today's standards. I mean, yes, there are violent scenes in it. The opening encounter with a homeless guy, the gang fight, the burglary, and the fame of a Catwoman, but it's not any more different than films that came out around the same time that dealt with violence, like Straw Dogs, Death Wish, Last House on the Left, and so forth. But this is a great film otherwise. One of Kubrick's best, even though I've only seen it once. I'm not going to say it's one of my favorites or anything. It's not in the top 5 Kubrick films, but it is good otherwise. Next, from one great director to another, Jean-Luc Godard, Alphaville. It tells the story of an agent who is sent to this town that is run by a supercomputer known as Alpha 5. Oh yes, Jean-Luc Godard. I get to talk about him. His movies were very different in that they didn't tell their stories. His stories were very unconventional in the way they approached the material. Masculine, Feminine dealt with teenage sexuality and what is love in the first place. Breathless, which is a very clever, interesting take on the human psyche. And Alphaville puts a spin on the espionage and sci-fi genre. Now, do I think it's one of his best? I mean, yeah, it's good. It's very mysterious. I don't want to give much away, but yeah, good movie. Don't get the Criterion DVD because it is well out of print, expensive, and just get the Kino release. It's cheaper and better. Alright, next we have 12 Rounds with John Cena. John Cena's wife is kidnapped by the person he put in prison several years ago, and in order to get his wife back, he has to take part in 12 puzzles that are scattered all throughout LA. LA, right? I'm sorry, New Orleans. So, he's a New Orleans cop who put a person in prison, and then he gets out, kidnaps his wife, and he has to take part in 12 puzzles that are scattered all throughout the city in order to get his wife back. Very suspenseful and interesting, though Can we stop having wrestlers acting movies? They don't work very well. They just don't. I saw The Marine and I felt like, oh, 12 Rounds is very similar to The Marine. I'm like, wait, I've seen this before. Oh my god, I've seen this before. But honestly, I like 12 Rounds better than The Marine, to be honest. I like it better. Next we have How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. I showed you that I have the first two already. Now here's Preferred. I never liked Preferred. It's just, I felt like the whole idea of discovering a new section of Burke that's what the place is called in the films. We already did this in the second one. And on top of that, the idea of the whole ending just shoots itself in the foot. I'm not a fan of the ending. I'm not a fan of, I just wasn't the biggest nut of this one. It just, to me, seemed like it's almost like they're just, cop out. It's like they're just done. They didn't want to deal with it anymore, but I'm not a fan. I don't want to give too much away, but, the female love interest to Toothless is okay. In fact, their relationship is one of the reasons why the film ended the way it did, which I'm not a fan of. I just wasn't a fan of the ending, but the movie's okay. It's certainly a better three than other ones I've seen. Nenastica from 1939. About 10 years earlier, Greta Garbo started her career in silent films, and she did a film in 1929 called Anna Karenina, in which the advertising campaign said, "Garbo talks," in which her first line was literally her asking for whiskey. Well, 10 years after that, 8 films later, after she did dramas and romance films, she did a comedy, hence the campaign Garbo Laughs. Unfortunately, this would be the only good comedy that she would do, as her next comedy, Two-Faced Women, was such a flop that it prompted her to quit acting forever. And this is actually a really good Ernest Lubitsch film, so check this out. Next up, we have Jimi Hendrix, formerly called A Film About Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix played the guitar like no one else. He invented chords that had never been invented. Whenever he got up on stage and did a guitar solo, it was like you were catapulted into the stratosphere. The way that it sounded, the raw energy of it was so immense that you were captivated. And this film actually does talk about who Jimmy was. How he was kind of a shy person off stage, but as soon as he got on stage, all his, shyness went away and he just rocked it, But it's a pretty well done documentary, so does not have a Blu-ray, but it's worth checking out. Deepwater Horizon. This is the true story of a Deepwater Horizon incident in 2010, in which, an oil rig off the coast of, I'm blanking on where. I don't know where it was, but it was an oil rig in the middle of the ocean. It basically exploded. And for the people stuck on that oil rig, now they had to try and survive. This is a really good film with Mark Wahlberg and Kurt Russell, right? Yeah, Kurt Russell. Definitely a really good film. I remember when this happened. I remember this happening. So the movie kind of captures that. The best scene in the movie is when the oil rig actually explodes, and you actually feel the intensity of it. So it works very well. So, Deepwater Horizon, check it out. Next up, we have Red Sparrow. Jennifer Lawrence is a ballet dancer who gets kidnapped, snatched from who gets thrown into a situation that she doesn't want to be in. She is forced to take part in Sparrow School, hence the title, where she gets to be an assassin. But at some point, she wants out, but they won't let her go. This is a really interesting film, and Jennifer Lawrence's character is really interesting. Someone who was stripped away from everything, someone who was kidnapped, taken away from everything she ever knew, and now she's trying to get out of this horrible situation. And it's really well done, really interesting, so not for everybody though. This is a very mature espionage film, not for everybody, but it's worth checking out. Next we have a Gangster Squad from 2013. Yeah. This is a retail exclusive, hence the different artwork, and there's an extra behind the scenes documentary on here. It took me years to find this, and the movie actually ended up pretty decent. It's very loosely based, and I do say loosely based, on the men who tried to take down Mickey Cones. Who Mickey Cones was one of the most feared gangsters in all of LA during the 1940s, and the FBI hired a team of people in secret, and their exploits are extremely fabricated in this movie. Like, they are so fabricated that, I don't know, I just felt like they weren't really, they just didn't seem real to me. But you have a good cast, though. You have Josh Brolin, Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone. You have Sean Penn as Mickey Cohen. And overall, this is just an entertaining movie. You know, don't expect accuracy here, because all of what they went through is completely fabricated. Next up, we have The Mist, the third Frank Darabont Stephen King collaboration from 2007. No, I have not opened this yet. I got this brand new, but I have seen it before. It tells the story of a mist that rolls into town, and with it comes these horrendous creatures, and everyone in town is stuck at a grocery store, and they can't like get out at all. So they have to try and figure out how to get to safety somehow. Now, the funny thing about this movie is it's actually not bad. A lot of people talk about the ending. The ending sucks. I just didn't like the ending at all. But then again, some people did like the ending, which is okay. And some people don't even like this movie at all, because every single person that you don't like is in this one location. People who are religious fanatics who think that this whole thing's the end of the world. Simple people who don't understand the situation. People who are, wiser than others. But again, this is a horror movie, so of course people are going to get axed off. And yeah, it's good. It's not as good as Frank Darabont's other collaborations with Stephen King, those being The Green Mile and Shawshank Redemption, which are amazing. But it's okay. It's an okay movie.